State Affairs with Edmund Obilo is live.
Yes, Professor Omotoye Olorode, when will the ASUU fight with government end?
Look, unless we really look at the totality of what started happening to our country especially from about 1984, we won't understand the business of the continuity of the struggle of the Academic Staff Union of Universities and the students, incidentally, because this thing was not just about academic staff. Okay? We won't understand this. So this thing is not just about ASUU. It's also about the continuity of the policies of the Nigerian ruling class, not just government. It's the ruling class and what their friends from abroad tell them to do to Nigerian people that makes this struggle an unending one. And so we need to contextualize the whole struggle to sustain our universities in this general light.
So what is that character? What is that character of the ruling class that annoys ASUU all the time?
Well, look, it's not just about annoyance of ASUU. Okay, but let's put it this way. Since 1978, when the international finance capital, preeminently represented by the World Bank and the IMF, took over our country. You remember the Ali Must Go was about government cutting on subvention to student care in the university system. And there was a big student row in 1978, which they call Ali Must Go. Since 1979, ASUU specifically has been shouting about the growing underfunding of the university system. In 1984, this person who is president of Nigeria now, Muhammadu Buhari, was the person who decided, in continuity with the Obasanjo removal of subsidy from universities, was the person who cancelled catering facilities in the university system. Of course, the vice chancellors were happy because they sold all the equipment in the catering service departments, sold all the plates and equipment to their friends who go and start hotels and so on and so forth. And 10,000 catering workers were sacked across the country. You see, as you know, this is the beginning of the so-called structural adjustment program. And one of the central things is that government was asked to reduce spending on education, on health, and so on. So it is that has been happening since then. So funding on education reduced drastically. The capacity of universities to deliver to the students on teaching and learning on municipal facilities began to crumble from that time. In the last 6 or 7 years in particular, the percentage of the budget of Nigeria to education has dropped from about 11% to about 7% consistently. So these are the problems. A major component of the crisis, therefore, is the amount of reduction in funding of education. And that's what ASUU is saying. From 2013 especially, ASUU reached an agreement with government that, look, it has become impossible to run our universities. Government then set up its own committee, which they call Needs Assessment Committee, to go around all the public funded universities, state and federal, and came up in their own report in 2013 that 1.3 trillion naira would be necessary to begin to revitalize the university system, and that given the situation on ground, this cannot be done in one fell swoop, that government will give 250 billion yearly for about 5 years to cover that 1.3 trillion. They have not done any such thing since 2013. Not to talk of the conditions of service and salaries and emoluments of university teachers. It's the same salary that lecturers were receiving in 2009 that they are still receiving now. So these are all part and parcel of the problem that what they call EAA and academic allowance became necessary because universities are understaffed, and therefore lecturers are overworked. Look, when I was in Ife, I don't remember until I retired in 2008, I don't remember having to supervise more than 4 undergraduate projects. More than 4 undergraduate projects in a year. When I was in Abuja in 2012-2013, I had to supervise 24 undergraduate projects, 1 lecturer alone. When I was in Abuja, there was no facility at all to train students. I bought a microscope with my own money. Cost me close to 1 million naira at that time. When I went to Ago-Iwoye, that is the microscope that my PhD student there used to do most of her work. And I had to leave that microscope with her when I was retiring from Ago-Iwoye in 2017. So the public need to be aware of all of this. And unless we contextualize ASUU's struggle in the general struggle of Nigerian people, if we just telescope the thing to just ASUU and all of that, there will be problem, comrade. That is the situation on ground.
Let's link this struggle to the welfare of the student, to the welfare of the Nigerian people.
Exactly.
What is the consequences of closing down a university regularly on society?
Well, look, if you have a facility that is just pretending to be there, somebody needs to tell everybody that that facility is not working. Look, welfare of students. In the last 3 or so months in Ife, a student died in the process of being ill and so. And there was a big student, whatever. Comments on that event shows that it is not new. That in fact, the system of healthcare provision for students and staff in many of our universities is perfunctory. We are not blaming anybody for that, but we are just saying that it's perfunctory, they are badly funded, and so on and so forth. Students are just unleashed in university towns without a place to live because government by 1984 has been coached by the World Bank and other people that they shouldn't provide facilities, hostel facilities and feeding facilities for students. In the last 3 months, 2 students or so have died in private hostels. Incidentally, the 2 of them fell in a sewer. In a sewer that is not covered. One was in Ife, in a private hostel on campus. University land was willed to people to build whatever, who are just trying to make profit. A similar situation happened in Ogbomoso about 6 months ago. A student was trying to fix electricity on a pole in a private hostel and fell into a Nsukka and died. Look, the situation is, of course, university teachers can decide to just keep quiet. Okay, but teachers are not allowed to do such things. They are not. And they will not. unless the government just decide that they want to close down the universities. I mean, look, parents should ask their children, the conditions under which they are learning. For example, no university, if we had a more serious COVID-19 whatever, no university will be able to open. No secondary school will be able to open because they are overcrowded. There is no way anybody can deal with the protocols of COVID-19 under this condition in which our students are. I mean, so, look, people can decide that they want what look like universities to go on. But it's like a doctor. Because incidentally, it's not just university teachers that are on strike. Doctors are on strike because doctors are not paid. They are not paid. Hospitals are in bad shape and so on. Saudi Arabia is coming to recruit doctors in our country. So to begin to pigeonhole this here as just an ASUU business really misses the point. And Nigerians need to know that there's a major crisis that everybody has to wake up to. We don't have universities properly speaking. And if all they want is that ASUU people should just collect whatever government wants to pay in terms of their salaries, if and when they pay, then Nigerians should say that. But many university teachers simply will not accept that kind of situation because it will be a betrayal of intellect and the function of intellectuals in the society. For university teachers to just, it's just like doctors. Doctors who are trained are working in hospitals where they cannot help patients. That is what is going on in our university system.
Now, Professor Olorode.
Yes, comrade.
Let's look at it this way.
Yes.
On ending strikes, ASUU goes on strike for 9 months, calls for the strike. ASUU has started a new strike. 1 month, has now extended it by 2 months. I'm asking, is it not time ASUU told itself that we are going for one strike and that strike will be the end of strike? And if government does not respond, no calling off of the strike until the Nigerian university system is reformed. I am saying, is it not time for the last and final strike?
Well, that is one way of looking at it. Why don't you ask government to close down its universities? Because they can't. After all, when teachers go on strike, they don't pay them. They ask them to go and starve, for their children to starve, for them to abandon our people. If our people really are, we should force this government by all means necessary to be responsible. And strike is one way of doing that. If Nigerians really want university teachers to stop going on strike, they should tell government to close down their universities and ask lecturers to go home. They didn't drop from heaven. They didn't. Strike for almost a year. People shout, we go back. We say, okay, they reach an agreement with us. They don't respond. And incidentally, it's not just ASUU that is going on strike. Look, joint health care unions were on strike for many months. Government ignored them. Local government people are on strike for local government autonomy. Government ignores them. Doctors are on strike, NARD, for about 4 months. In the last 6 months or so. This thing is not just about ASUU. Government is irresponsible. And our people should tell their government exactly that. As a union, ASUU has the right and responsibility to determine its own strategy and tactics. If there are people who think that universities should be closed down, they should go and tell government that universities should go down, should close down so that ASUU stops going on strike.
Should the universities be given autonomy for self-funding?
They cannot. You see, this government cannot give anybody any autonomy because they want to pretend that universities exist. but they don't want to fund them. For example, look, one of the key issues with this strike is what they call integrated payroll and personnel services or something, IPPIS, where government is insisting that it should be paying lecturers directly from Abuja, from the Auditor General's office. That if they want to employ people, or the Auditor General must know. If they want to promote people, the Auditor General must know. If they do any of these things without clearance from there, the person who is so appointed will have to wait until they get approval. So a person is employed and he will have to work for a year or so before he gets any money paid. The Nigerian ruling class is irresponsible. It is not in a position to even understand what universities are.
That is why I'm talking about autonomy.
What they call the TSA or single treasury or something like that is also part of that. And incidentally, all of these things are coming from the World Bank. It's not their local or indigenous initiative. It's coming from their masters who are saying that we don't need universities. And we have records for this. We have records since 1986 that they have been telling them that we don't need universities.
That's why I'm asking, should the universities be given autonomy so that they will fund
themselves? Of course, now the condition for universities to function is that they should be autonomous. There are laws that establish them. Government sets up governing councils. Government gives them money from time to time, which these councils manage. The chairman is appointed by government. About 4 of them are representing various parastatals of government. Only 4 or 6 out of about 12 or 14 are actually elected representatives of the university community. The vice chancellor himself is an appointee of government. Okay? But each time you talk about autonomy, they say go and look for money. Autonomy to die is what government understands by autonomy. Go and, if you want autonomy, go and fund yourself. This government in power, is it funding itself? Is it not taxpayers' money that is what does this government generate that is in power? That is asking universities and healthcare facilities to go and look for money. So what will be the responsibility of government? As if we have not lived in this same country where government was funding the university system and funding health facilities and funding public bureaucracies. So, Comrade Edmund, these are the issues. The government simply wants to kill public funded education. That is why NUC is behaving as if it is set up to license more and more private universities. But unfortunately, most Nigerians won't be able to afford private for-profit universities. We've seen that in the last 10 years or so.
Professor Omotoye Olorode, thank you for featuring on State Affairs.
Thank you, Comrade Edmund.
In the global village of conflicting ideologies and complexities, understanding systems and schemes through awareness and social reconstruction becomes expedient.
They never told you how you offended them?
I'm not on trial, so I can't go before
Join the radio man, Edmund Obilo, on State Affairs for local and international politics, security, extensive economic analysis, interviews, and world power play.
Nigerians must choose the path they want to follow. Follow the same looters and sponsors of violence who control the political structures or encourage the formation of a new leadership team.
Be a global citizen and join the radio revolution on State Affairs. State Affairs with Edmund Obilo. Radio just got deeper.